Hello everyone and welcome to Knockhatch Adventure Park. I'm Sky and we've got James behind the camera.
Hi guys.
And today we're joined with a very special guest, Mufasa. So Mufasa is a southern white-faced owl and we've had him here since he was about 4 weeks old. He's now 8.5 and he really is just one of the keepers' favourites here because he's just such a little bird with an amazing personality. And it's not just Mu himself, it's actually his species, and there's so much to them, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today. So if you look at Mu, you'll notice he's rather small. And yes, he is fully grown. They live between 15 to 20 years in captivity, and Mu is about 8.5. So he is an adult, surprisingly. Now, with a lot of birds, they actually are fully grown within 2 months. And this makes them one of the fastest developing families on the planet. And if you were interested, the first is the African killfish, who can reach sexual maturity with just 2 weeks. So, as I mentioned, he is of the southern white-faced owl, and he can be found in southern Africa, with distribution ranging in loads of areas between southern Uganda, Kenya and Zambia. He's quite widespread there. The ironic thing about him is that, for being the southern white-faced owl, he actually does poorly in the south of South Africa. And the most likely reason for that is probably urbanisation. And this is just us as humans growing, expanding, the introduction of artificial concretes and buildings and light, which is affecting them as a species, and it affects a lot of animals. He's doing okay because he is a really good species who has learned how to adapt to this, which has made him a bit of a least concern. He isn't doing too badly. Now, you would find these guys in open woodland and savanna, and they would usually nest in the crevices of rocks and stuff like that. This is really helpful for them because if you look at Mu's colouring, he's got this beautiful grey and black barring. Just give you a look at him there. And this helps him to perfectly camouflage into the floor. And being ground dwellers, it does make them more exposed to hyenas and other scavengers who might go for them. So being able to camouflage is really important for them. They also are adapted to live as ground dwellers. If you look at him, you wouldn't be able to see his legs, but he has really, really long legs, and it means that he's able to kind of bring his feathers up a bit more to stop them from dragging across the floor. Now, this is extremely important because for birds, feathers are their lifeline. If they don't keep these feathers intact or in good condition, it means they will struggle in all aspects of their life: hunting, defence, and for some birds who rely on their appearance to find mates, it's just completely difficult. So it's so important to keep these feathers intact. You're looking at me. So a little bit about his appearance. The thing you might notice first is he has these beautiful distinctive orange eyes. Now you might be wondering whether the colour actually helps in any way or shows a bit about him. There was superstition that the colour of the eye actually corresponded to the time of day the owl would hunt. So it would be black and brown for nocturnal animals, yellow for the diurnal, and orange here for our crepuscular hunters. It's actually been proven that this isn't the case, but rather than colour, Mu relies on the size. So the eyes actually take up about 70% of an owl's head, which is absolutely massive when you think about it, especially for a little one like Mu. And it's because Mu is primarily a visual hunter. Unlike some of the other birds who will hunt more mammals, Mu, because of his size, will hunt more insects, with his primary prey being moths. So, because they make such little noise, it's his hearing that they won't pick up as much as what a mammal would, that would make more noise. So he really does rely on his eyes, which is why they are so big. It can also help
We do actually have some questions, so we're going to run through them quickly. One from Mark Joyce, asking, what's your favourite animal at Knockhatch? Mufasa, not even Puddle, that's very mean. And then one from Carl Smith, which I'm going to jump in with, saying, zoos, etc. are going to open soon. Do you know the news about Knockhatch yet? As far as we are aware, although we do have animals here, we are not classed as a zoo. We believe that we come under a different category of the sort of adventure park, fun fair sort of thing. Obviously, while we do have animals, you can't really compare our collection of animals to that of London or Colchester or Chester Zoo. Simply, you can't. But like I said, until the statement given tonight, we are quite unsure, as quite a few zoos still are, as to how we're going to open, what's going to have to be done in procedures to keep that safe for everyone. Then Joanne saying he is beautiful, and Eric asks how much food does he need daily, and what would that be in the wild?
So here he's quite small. He only gets around like body of a chick for his piece.
So he doesn't actually get that much. It's about, for this little guy, on a cold day when we give him a little bit extra, he might get about one full day old chick. So it's not much at all, bless him. For being such a small bird, he really doesn't need much to keep him going. And then Giant Margaret asking, does he have any vocalizations and when would he use them?
Yes, so obviously he's called Mufasa, and he's actually named that after his vocalization. So what these guys are able to do is they're able to create a low grumble and kind of like a purr, and for them it helps them mimic lion cubs, which is how he got the name Mufasa, because obviously a Lion King. And this is really helpful to them because where there's lion cubs, there's going to be a lion, and they really rely on this association because it means it will warn predators off. They do not want to have to deal with a massive lion coming after them, so they're most likely to stray away from him. This isn't actually the only creature he's able to mimic as well. These guys rely really heavily on mimicking what is known as a hawk moth. They do this in multiple ways. So as you see, he's got the ear tufts, and for him these really help to break up his silhouette, and they can mimic the antenna of these hawk moths. And you might be wondering why this is so important. It's because if he's unrecognisable as an owl and they think he's a moth, he's not going to be worth chasing. Like, a small moth is high effort for low nutrients, so it's just better to ignore it and to find prey that would be more fulfilling. Another way he actually mimics this moth is through his flight style. If you've seen Mufasa fly or any of the other owls, you'll see that the other owls have more of like a low gliding, very slow wing beat pattern, whereas with him, he has very rapid high wing beats, and that is to mimic what the flight style of this moth, which is also making it unrecognisable for him, making him less likely to be detected. And earlier today we actually found a relative of this hawk moth here in the park, which I think James is going to talk to you a little bit about.
I'll very quickly answer Eric Knight's question saying, do they mate for life? Sort of. These guys, bless them, they will continuously go back to the same partners. It is common for them to do that, especially seen in birds that are studied heavily, like tawny owls. They tend to go back to the same pairing, but it's not that if their partner dies, they will not move on. They will quite happily move on. It's simply they will build a rapport and they will build a sense of trust between each other. And in the bird world, where the males are often smaller than the females, well, in the majority of the cases, males are going to want to go back to a female that they know isn't going to eat them. But going on from what Sky said, one of our team this morning called me over for some very exciting news. They'd found this little guy in one of our little indoor buildings. And for those of you that don't know, this is a small elephant hawk moth. There are two different species of this hawk moth which we have in this country, the small and the large. But I'm sure you'll agree, they are absolutely breathtaking. Now these guys, they are primarily nocturnal, and what they will do is they'll go out at night and they feast on the nectar of plants that open up at night, and they are beautiful. I really hope he's coming through clearly because he is stunning. And these little guys are, as Sky was saying, a very close relative to what Mu will be eating. With a large portion of his diet being made up of moths, he's got all those different little adaptations to help him catch them. But something really cool about these guys, which I didn't know, and I don't know how close it's going to let me. I mean, it's very difficult to see, but their wings are actually made up of tiny little scales. They're not feathery like a bird's or anything like that. It's something I found out yesterday from watching Spring Watch, which I thought was very interesting. I don't know if it applies for these guys, so I'm sorry, little guy, I'm going to go off topic a little bit. But in some species of butterflies, they actually have two separate little mini organs in their wings, which essentially act as hearts, which pump this special hormone around, which helps sort of thermoregulate them, keeping them warm, and it also makes sure that their pigments are nice and vibrant. So I do really hope it's coming up clearly. You can see these beautiful bright greens and pinks. Now, while this seems like quite bad camouflage for being so vibrant, you can actually really easily blend in, especially on plants that are flowering. You can almost disappear. And given the fact these species are nocturnal, if I was to go over to our bonfire and pop him down, you can see, if I stretch out my hand, amongst the sort of dead soil and stuff that we've popped on for insulation there, he can quite easily disappear. So it is awesome. And I'll let you guys...
Those bright colours are also, in nature, having bright and vibrant colours can usually be a sign of danger, or that they could be poisonous and venomous. This isn't the case for them, but they do actually take advantage of that, which makes them a bit more threatening and gives them a bit more of a scary reputation.
Yeah, so I will just let you know, we're not going to keep him. As much as I'd love to have this guy and sort of watch him live out his little life, when we finish the stream, the only reason I've got him actually is in a bit of a promiscuous place and he could have quite easily be squished. So I thought we'd move him. But what we're probably going to do is I think I'll probably bang him in our solitary beehive nice and safe so that the birds don't get you. Hey, and speaking of birds that eat moths, back to little Moo, and my dad asked, Eric Knight, asking, with Mo being imprinted, would he still eat moths or just wait for the keepers to feed him?
So this is actually quite a funny story. So even though they are imprints, they still have this natural instinct, which you think they would lack being captive birds. And for a lot of times, if you have been here at our shows and seen him, if there is a moth inside the barn where we do the shows, Moo will just spend half an hour chasing after it, and he will not stop until he succeeds. So he will go after it. It's not, with a lot of birds, it's not just a case of being fed and being happy. These guys are opportunists, and if they see the opportunity to get an easy dinner, they will. Another way he does it is he does steal nests from other birds, as he's lazy. Why would you want to make your own? And he also has taken advantage by adapting to what we've provided. So as an example of this, we have lampposts. And obviously they have this artificial light which attracts moths. With this guy, they knowingly are able to blend in and camouflage with the lampposts. So what you find them doing is sitting on top of these lampposts and waiting for the lamppost to do all the work, attracting the moths, and then we'll just swoop down and get them all. And that's an easy dinner for them.
Just if you think about it, although we call them lazy, it is absolutely incredible that these birds have figured out such an easy way.
Not lazy, tactical.
Tactical, exactly. Nice easy way for them to get their food, which is awesome.
Now, although he does rely primarily on his eyesight, he does use other parts and senses as his advantage. If you look at him, he's got what I like to call his moustache, and these little tiny feathers here help him to feel for his food better. Additionally, like most owls, he will have this asymmetric hearing, and this is where the heights of the ears are at different heights on each side of the head. And this means that the time in which a sound is heard at different times for each of the ears, which helps them to further pinpoint where their prey is. This is really helpful for birds like the great grey or barn owls who will be hunting in long meadows or snow, and they can't actually see their prey, but they can use this amazing hearing to like pinpoint exactly where the prey is underneath.
We do have a question from Sarah asking, how's Moo adapted to the UK climate? Does he have to have a heated enclosure?
He doesn't have a heated enclosure. He's one of our outside birds, really.
Yeah, with the smaller birds, you have to be careful. I mean, Moo here weighs, well, he's a bit chubby at the moment, bless him. He weighs around 200 grams. He should be around 100, 190, 195. And we do make sure we weigh these guys in the sort of grams, just so we can be extra precise with them, whereas the others we do in old money, pounds and ounces. But we were quite worried about him, because obviously he's a small bird, and as Sky said, he's actually in one of our outdoor aviaries, so he's just along that way a bit more. But we gave him a little box so that if he ever got too cold, he could huddle down in there. To this day, I've never seen him use it, neither any of the keepers. And what quite a lot of people forget, and it's very easy to do so unless you've experienced it, is that while places like Africa are very, very hot during the day, as soon as that sun goes down, because their soil is quite, what's the word? It's very dry. It doesn't absorb heat well, such as sand. But because as soon as the sun goes down, because it's this dry soil sand, all that heat goes. So it can go from plus 40 degrees on a very hot day, and it can go to a cold night. It could go all the way down to minus 10. So that's a huge drop that this bird has to deal with. And in comparison, UK's chilly climate isn't that big of a deal. And he quite happily just moseys on about. Doesn't really need any extra pampering, does he?
We do worry because he gets flown indoors, and the majority of our birds do get flown out outside, but we haven't actually tried this with him because he is so small.
No, we've obviously, with everything going on, credit must actually be given to Ben, one of the other keepers, for this. We were sitting in the office, I think we were having lunch, and he just sort of realised that when eventually we do open, the likelihood is we're not going to be able to do our indoor show, because that's very cramped, obviously inside, and lots of you guys all very close to each other, and it would be very difficult to space it out properly. So we've basically been trying to get our birds used to flying outside, which, sorry, the moth's still on my finger. So we've got most of our inside, in fact all of our outside team, including our kookaburra, flying outside, which is fantastic. Maybe one day we'll be able to do a little 1:30 live video of all of them showing off what they've got to, and it's just been a case of building up their confidence out there. But little Moo hasn't taken to it as well as the others, as I'm sure you can understand. A bird that's been flown inside for the majority of his life, it's going to be quite a shock coming out here into the big wide world and being asked to flap about. So we've taken things slow with him. We're not entirely sure if we're going to keep trying to do him out here, because as well as the fact that he's not a big fan of it, we don't actually have a small telemetry for him. So telemetry is a tracking system we put on all of the birds. If you're interested in learning more, myself and Mark have done a few videos on it. But yeah, we don't actually have one small enough for him properly. So we are just taking it slow with him. So Jason has asked, what exercise does he do to keep his weight down? So you briefly mentioned about his flying there. Do you want to go into that a bit more?
What we do with Moo, he gets flown in our indoor barn. There's loads of perches in there, and he will literally just fly from the glove to perches. With birds, the main thing for them is you monitor their weight very, very strictly. So these guys get a very strict diet in order to keep their weight, because if they don't have a certain weight, they won't fly for us. And that's just, it's called their fat weight, where they won't fly and they will just refuse to. So it is just giving them that extra time in the barn to practice flights for the shows, and also monitoring what he eats.
And then we have Paul saying it's absolutely stunning. And then, are you guys able to open again this week? I've answered this in a bit more detail earlier on in the video, so if you want to look back once we finish this up, which will be in just a second. Yeah, we're not sure. We're going to wait for what is said this evening, but if you want my more in detail explanation of not really giving an answer, wait for this video to post up. And then Stephen saying, morning everyone at Knockhatch, well done for all your hard work. Thank you very much. But do you have anything else to say?
I was going to say that one amazing thing about this species is a defence system that they actually have in place. These guys are also known as a transformer owl, and this is because they have this amazing ability to change their body shape. So for a predator maybe the size of a barn owl or a rat, Mufasa can actually do this thing where he will puff up his feathers massively, and it will make him look much bigger than he is, because obviously he is quite small. And by doing so, he's basically saying, I am able to take you on, I am big, don't come for me. And it's really good because it helps to warn off predators. Alternatively, in the scenario where that wouldn't work, for example, Jackson or African spotted eagle owl, if Mufasa came into contact with one of them, and puffing up, he still wouldn't match up to him. He also has the ability to shrink himself down, and what he does is he brings himself in and he makes himself really tall and thin, and he can camouflage as like a branch or just part of a tree, and it's really clever. If you have the time, I recommend looking up Transformer Owl on YouTube, because it's amazing what these guys can do. Like, he brings himself in completely. It looks like he has no feathers and he's just like this tiny skinny body.
It's one of those times where you get to sort of appreciate how small these guys actually are. I'd go out on a limb and say roughly that his head's between the size of a 50 and 20p coin. So he's absolutely tiny, bless his heart.
And their eggs are between 38 to 42 millimeters, so that's literally smaller than an acorn if you think about it. They are tiny, but it's what makes him adorable.
Yeah,
he is adorable, but he's got many little tricks up his sleeve.
And then Jason saying, well done to Sky on this live show. And then Claire has asked, what does he eat for his diet?
So here he has mainly chick, really.
Well, no,
chick,
not mainly chick.
Rabbit,
We with our birds, with our birds, we use chick pretty much every day to make up flying pieces. Especially for these smaller birds, we can use them for like the wings of those chick are an excellent little positive reinforcement each time they do a behaviour we want, like flying. But we make up the majority of their diet with things like rabbit, quail, mice, rats, and stuff like that.
In the wild though, he will primarily predate on moths, large insects, nothing too big, maybe things like voles and mice as well. Like I said, with him being able to mimic this hawk moth, no move, we'll finish in a minute, right? With this hawk moth, not only does it warn predators off, but it actually helps him to catch them, because when he's mimicking this moth, they actually can't recognise him either, so he will be able to go undetected as part of these moths, and he is able to just eat them up, which makes it so easy for them to catch them.
Right, so we're going to run through these last little questions and then we're going to call it because we've got work to do. So Joanne saying, excellent talk on Mufasa, so nice to find out so much more about this gorgeous little owl. And then Jason's last question, would he eat snakes?
No, he's too small, bless him.
He might be more akin to eating something like a little worm, bless him. Snakes are a bit too dangerous for this little guy. But I'm going to give you one last little close-up on him, just to get a real good look at his vibrant colours and those lovely, lovely eyes. And then from myself, James, the little elephant hawk moth, Gary Shaw, our guest star. And then from Sky, we are going to say goodbye, and we hope to see you guys later for our 3 o'clock stream, where we'll be doing something special with the sheep.
Have a good day.
Bye, guys.